Welcome to Scottish Watches Live. You should, if the technology has all worked for a change, now be seeing all the beautiful people of Team Scottish Watches, plus one other beautiful person who, after this week's podcast, is actually going to remain on mute for the entire episode. Because all I've got is abuse this week for interrupting our guest, RT Custer. Apparently, you've achieved what many believed wasn't achievable. But there we go. Anyway, we'll get to RT in a wee second. We will begin with our usual checks of who you are and where you are and what you're wearing. According to my screen, first up is Dave. Floatlight, where are you and what are you wearing?
I am just outside Glasgow and I am wearing a vintage Credor.
Ooh, very nice. Not seen that one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then next up is Sean.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean. I'm from Washington, D.C., and today I'm wearing the Speedy Pro.
Cool. And then Philologus.
Hi guys, I'm from Singapore. Today I'm wearing the 5-digit sub. This one that I borrowed from my dad.
Good. And then Derek.
Derek in Brooklyn, New York, and also wearing a Speedmaster Professional today.
Oh, two Speedies. Dave will be disappointed that he chose a Credor. And
2 seconds.
then like goes off, selects one of 17. Ralph, what are you and where are you and what are you wearing?
Hi, I'm Ralph and I'm in Dubai and I'm wearing today the Seiko 64 Mass reissue.
Yeah, it's a nice watch. That seems to have taken a lot of people by surprise, that watch, as to how much they've liked it. So no, that's interesting to see you wearing it. Then I don't know if she is wearing her new beloved, but next up is Sam.
I'm Sam. I'm in Colorado, and today I'm wearing Grand Seiko Blue Snowflake. That is shared with my boyfriend. I can't say it's all mine, but it's shared with my boyfriend.
So is that one of the US special releases, the Blue Snowflake? It's not one of those seasonal ones.
It's in the seasonal one.
It is a seasonal one, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about the subject. You know, I don't know what I'm doing a watch podcast for. And then finally, but by no means the least, we have RT, who is almost certainly wearing a Speedmaster as well. RT, where are you and what are you wearing?
RT from Vortic Watches, Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm wearing our military edition.
Very good, very good. And what was that before it was your military edition?
It was a Hamilton pocket watch, originally made for the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II.
How appropriate. So as folk will know who've listened to the podcast this week, RT has been involved with Vortic Watches. It's his business. Him and his partner set it up. And they successfully won their case this week against the might of the Swatch Group, Hamilton in particular, who had strongly objected to what they had done with old pocket watches of yesteryear. So I thought what we'd do is I would just, before we get stuck in, I would just share this screen. And what we would do is we would go through all the coverage. So we'll just go to Hodinkee, and I've just put Vortic watches in, and wow, they're not reporting on it. How peculiar. So I thought, well, a blog to watch surely must be reporting this news story. It appears not. Surely journalists such as are found at Watch Pro would be good enough to report on a brand like Vortic winning a case that has been, well known in the watch community, but apparently not. It would seem that largely the watch media has been quite silent in terms of what's been happening with yourselves, RT. What kind of reaction have you got from those bigger organizations and then the likes of us as podcasters and YouTubers to what's been going on?
Well, overall, extremely positive. I mean, everybody's excited for the little guy winning, right? David and Goliath kind of story. A lot of reactions from our customers. Everybody I know that has followed us for the last 5 years through the legal battle has been, stoked, to say the least. And I've gotten private messages from some, bloggers, and obviously you guys had me on, and thank you for that. I can't stop thanking you for that. But yeah, it's overall a story that it looks like I just have the responsibility to tell. And so hopefully other people have me on and I can keep telling this story, because for me, it's some of the best news we've ever gotten.
Exactly. Well, we'll give you another opportunity to tell it for posterity on YouTube. So give us a feeling. What was it like when, I think it was last Friday? Did it arrive
Yep.
by fax or a phone call or a letter? Was it your solicitor, lawyer that called you? How did you find out?
I missed a few phone calls. I was actually, one of the first times I've taken the afternoon off and played golf that day. And I got an email as just a follow up from my attorney, who couldn't get in touch with me because I had muted my phone. And yeah, I mean, I think the subject line was, champagne is in order. And so we promptly stopped playing golf and started to drink, because, I think that's natural when you win something this monumental.
Good stuff. So everybody else who's in the chat, you've obviously all followed this as well this week. What are your thoughts on what's been going on? Who would like to kick us off? Should we go to the legal? Should we go to Sean?
Oh, well, if you're going to put me on the spot, then I have to give my disclaimer. Nothing I say is legal advice. So, but I mean, from a legal perspective, I think some of it was to be expected, considering some of the prior case law that's been out there. But you never know how these things are going to go. To me, the most interesting thing was that Hamilton's case was based on what seemed to be a Canadian brand manager's email, which is interesting because for a trademark, you're usually dealing with like US confusion. So the fact that even their evidence was Canadian based was interesting. Also, to the fact that they didn't seem to have the proper foundation to even insert that evidence into record was interesting from Hamilton. But, it's still within the appeals period. So hopefully keep your fingers crossed. We'll wait and see.
And what do you think? I mean, Dave, you are a big buyer of items of luxury from the brand that own Hamilton, some of their other watches. What do you think something like this actually does to a brand, or in the grand scheme of things, the big boys is just what they do? It doesn't really make a great deal of difference.
To be fair, it doesn't really matter whether it's watches or whatever it may be. Big corporate plays legal games all the time, and some of them hit the news and most of them don't, frankly, because they'll argue over like the dust on the bottom of someone's shoe if they think that it will get them either a financial recompense or something else. That's just the nature of the corporate landscape now. It's just sad that most of the time it's usually between themselves and it's just a transfer of monies between corporates. But occasionally when they get after the small guy or somebody else, that's when it can be a little bit David and Goliath, and they're the ones that tend to hit the news. But they're sometimes the ones where they sometimes don't think before they do it. I think they just play the game and they don't necessarily think of the consequences or how it will be reported to them. When a corporate goes after another corporate, I don't think anyone really cares particularly much. It's when they choose a fight that's maybe not a fair fight that folk get a bit more upset about it.
Yes, there's very much the David and Goliath element to what.
Yeah, but also considering the media coverage that we were talking about, I think your average consumer probably won't even hear about this, it seems like.
Right.
Probably into the necessary. It sounds bad, but probably most of them don't care either. It's only people who are maybe directly involved in the industry or in the hobby itself that maybe might get a bit more interested in it. But your average Joe that buys a watch probably doesn't care one way or t'other, as long as they can buy what they want when they want. That's all they really care about.
Yeah.
Right. And this case was interesting because it went all the way through trial. Most of these things, like most cases, 98% of cases are going to settle before trial. So this was one of those few times where we actually had a verdict, which makes it interesting, but still most people don't know about it. They're not going to care. It's just one of those facts of life.
Yeah. Probably more interesting, but a lot of interest maybe from legal circles, because as you say, it's not often these actually get to this, end game stage. More often than not, it's the threat of court action and somebody pays someone else and off they go, and everyone's happy. But there's no real specific conclusion or legal conclusion can come out of it. Whereas this, as you say, got that far, which is unusual in itself.
Yeah.
Were these Swatch, was the Swatch legal team involved, or was this the Hamilton legal team?
It went as high as the chief anti-counterfeiting officer of the Swatch Group.
Of the Swatch.
So,
okay, Swatch Group. All right.
Yep. So
well,
I mean,
yeah, I think it's
Hamilton
it's
did most of it, but Swatch was, the people I talked to.
Right. Hamilton was the main plaintiff, though, right?
Yeah.
So then it's what Dave said, basically a company with a big lawyers on retainer saying like, okay, let's do it, right? We're paying for them anyway.
It's interesting that rather more of the watch media reported Rolex beating their small company in La Californier than have reported the big boys being beaten by the small fry. So,
right, but Rolex, once again, that was a settlement, so there wasn't actually like a beating. They agreed to terms on their own, and for like Hamilton, Swatch Group in general, like if you own a trademark, you have to enforce it, because if they let everything go, it looks bad for them. If someone does start coming around and infringing their marks, the other party can now say, well, you're not enforcing against this guy or that guy, so why pick on me? So there's a sense where they do have to step up and kind of send those cease and desist letters. And maybe they didn't think everything through about which ones to take to court, which ones not to. But I mean, every organization has to protect their intellectual property and portfolio too. That's most of the brand's value actually nowadays.
Yeah.
How did they,
Sorry, go on, Sam.
Okay. Or if you want to overtalk me, it's fine. I was going to ask, how did they present you this whole trial? Like, do they mail you a letter? Do they contact you directly? What happened?
Yeah, we got a cease and desist letter in May of 2015 after we put an advertisement in Watch Time magazine that featured what we call the Lancaster, or a Hamilton pocket watch that we turned into a wristwatch. That's what kind of set things off. And when we got the cease and desist, to be honest, I thought it was, a misunderstanding, because in my mind, I was advertising for them. I was preserving Hamilton history and turning it into wristwatches and all that stuff. And it was myself, my business partner, and a designer in an office. We had yet to make a single watch. We hadn't manufactured a single thing yet. So I was just like, where's this coming from? And to all your points, it's all very valid in what kind of my legal team advised me, which is, hey, this is probably corporate policy for a big company like this, is they see their name on somebody else's product, so they send a letter. The thing that stands out for me is, as soon as I got that letter, I answered it. I mean, I found every single person with a C in their title on LinkedIn that worked for Swatch or Hamilton, and I sent them a personal note and said, let's be friends. Why do we, let's at least not be enemies. Like, I didn't want this. I don't want any of this.
Let's work together. Yeah.
Yeah. And they, for 5 years, did not respond positively to any of that.
So what
I'm curious,
I'm sorry, please go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah, did they ever try to settle along the way, or is it like through train to trial?
Yeah, I can't talk about exactly what we discussed in settlement, but yes, we did have lots of settlement discussions. Some of those are a little bit public knowledge, from the court documents that you can read. The most interesting court document is something that we did get a little bit of press on about, I guess, a year and a half ago. We did a settlement conference in New York City, with their side and my side all kind of sitting on a table trying to work things out semi-amicably. And the judge actually basically slapped them on the wrist for not taking it seriously, not showing up, literally. Like, they just did not come prepared to make a deal. and they had to pay a fine to the court, and basically apologize to me for wasting my time and a ton of my money. And so that was when, at least for me, I really started to feel like I was being bullied, instead of just having some legal conversation.
Yeah. Darren, who's DM Tiffany Timepieces, who is maybe just trying to make sure he doesn't end up in these circumstances with the watches he's making, is asked the question as to whether you think that Swatch were just expecting you to buckle on the cease and desist rather than go the distance.
For sure. And even we got the official federal lawsuit began in July of 2017, and they sued us for trademark infringement and counterfeiting. And they didn't just sue Vortic Watch Company, they sued Robert Thomas Custer, me personally. And so that was a pretty clear action of trying to make this feel more real to me, in my mind. And I did take it personally, and I kept doing what I was doing. I kept personally reaching out to them, trying to correct the misunderstanding.
Did you ever check with them and said like, hey, what do you want? I mean, except of course the whole 100% I'm doing nothing, but what can we do in order for us to continue our business? What do you want me to do? I mean, only use Hamilton dials on Hamilton. What movements? Use a specific framework. Was there any fruitful discussion that you ever had with them, or is this all like, no, we just want you to stop?
Yeah. So a lot of that is protected settlement discussions. So I can't talk about the specifics. I'll just tell you the straight up overall answer is yes. And anything you can think of that would have been offered from either side was certainly discussed in some way, as you might assume.
Cool. Well, let's move it on a little bit to some actual watch news and watch content. We'll get your feedback on this as well, RT, and we'll no doubt jump into some more bits and pieces. A couple of something that followed on from last week was that GPHG have actually come out with their proper shortlist. Now, the interesting thing is here is I can no longer find the long list. So I am working from memory as to what has disappeared, as to what didn't make it. So that bronze thing isn't there from last week. But also interestingly, things like the Anordain, the Orage, the Doxa in the iconic class is also not there. Anyone got any particular observations on GPHG?
I'm shocked Wempe had all theirs knocked out too. I did not see that coming.
Yeah. Wempe are crying into their big pillow tonight.
I think the Anordain was really surprising for me because didn't the Breitling like non-traction space plastic watch stay in at its expense?
Yeah, so the Breitling in the challenge category is still there. So Anordain lost to Ming. Okay, kind of get that. To the Karunu Tokyo, I can kind of see it. To the Louis Erard, which is the Alain Silberstein.
Yep.
I'm not sure that the Alain Silberstein is a design pattern. You've got one, Dave. Is any more significant than what Anordain were doing? I mean, they're entirely different, but it's not a high quality watch behind the scene. It is all about its design and what it looks like and what it says.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Tokyo is probably the nearest straight head to head with Anordain. It is different, but it's probably the most similar in price point and layout. I think the thing with the Erard is that it's the first time there's been a Silberstein kind of watch at that kind of price point, because typically they've all been much more expensive. And again, it really comes down to, it's the judges. Remember, it's like you can never probably second guess them because it isn't entirely industry led either. There's a lot of individuals in the judging panel, and you never quite know what their thought process is, do you?
Yeah. So I think it's a shame that the Anordain didn't make it. I don't think it's entirely surprising.
I mean, I think that's the first time they've ever got on the list full stop. And, there's a lot of brands don't make it through the first time they get presented. So I think I think if they just keep presenting, they'll get there.
Yeah, I think more for me, the disappointment is in the Petit Aiguille where the Orage Tourbillon was sitting, and it's effectively lost out to a skeletonized Bell and Ross, a Breitling that's got some rainbow colours on it, and
Yeah,
plain three-hander Portuguese.
yeah. I tell you, if that Sarpaneva doesn't win that category, I'll be amazed.
Yes. I mean, it's all very well saying that Orage should have been in there, but I think this is probably the winner. Although I think Trilop, did they win something last year? Trying to remember. I thought they certainly had a submission last year. There we go. Cool. Any other observations from anyone? I saw Doxa in the iconic.
Doxa still in the dive watch category, along with the UN Doxa knockoff.
This is Ricky's
carbon. There you go.
This one.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like it's made of bright light. Huh?
Yeah. So there we have it. And on the iconic, I think I still think the winner comes between the Bulgari aluminium chronograph and probably the GP.
Yes. I mean, in saying that, the Seiko, you'd be surprised, that's pretty iconic as well. I think it'll be interesting how they vote on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that Seiko is more classic than certainly the Bulgari or the GP. It's got a much longer history, and it's really not changed much in its entire time either. And it's never gone out of production. The others, like the Bulgari, is just a reissue, let's be honest. It's a watch that was around 20 years ago, disappeared, and it's come back again. Whereas that Seiko's been there all the time. That might go against it, though.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll be doing a show at some stage in the future going through them all. So let's talk some actual new watches, and we'll do some hit miss maybes. So first up this week is the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon Need-You. Now, RT, we discussed in the podcast about Ball watches, and you shared some thoughts just about how good they were historically. You want to repeat yourself for the purposes of this particular show, and then tell us what you think of this?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you all probably know Ball was one of what we call the great American watch companies. They made pocket watches in America starting in the late 1800s. And it's one of, a great example of a relaunch of the brand. And in my opinion, of all the brands that have been relaunched, all the great American brands, Ball is doing everything right. I think they're using all the right, heritage and design cues from the original Ball watch company from Cleveland, Ohio. And I think, Webb C. Ball, who founded Ball Watch Company back in the day, I think he was one of the best marketers in the history of American watches. The official railroad standard. A lot of people say on the ball comes from him. I don't know, but I think he would not be rolling in his grave if he saw some of these things. I think he would see it as a really excellently done progression of the brand.
Mm-hmm. Anybody own a Ball watch? I have one. Any of the rest of you gang have any?
Yep.
From these guys? What have you got, Dave?
Yes. It's it's an engineer. It's an engineer. It's an engineer.
I mean, I really like these. They are quite panorized, but I do really like the classic
Crown guards.
The crown guards that these have. This particular one has a few unique designs about it in terms of helium release, etc., and obviously all the luminous tubes that Ball watches are known for. Anybody else have any experience? Nope. Silence.
That's a no then.
Oh, that's a no.
I have to say, I think these are incredible watches for the price, and would certainly encourage anyone to go and have a look at them. So this is the first one up. I think this sounds like a distinct maybe to everybody because not a lot of people know about it. But give us your thoughts, hit miss maybe, on this Ball watch. And the answer is maybes. Oh, a hit from, it's a distinct maybe from everybody. Well, I suspect the next one will engender a bit more opinion, and this is something new from AP, and again goes back to this fact that every time they release something, they call it a concept. Surely once it's released, it's actually no longer a concept.
Well, I don't necessarily know. You know a specific Zenith watch that was definitely a concept and it was definitely released and it's still definitely a concept, Rick.
Yeah. Theirs, they took the invention and released it. They stopped calling it a concept watch. That was clearly the mistake. They had to keep
That was the mistake, yeah.
concept watch. This is the AP. This is from Hodinky. This is the AP Royal Oak Concept Flying Tourbillon GMT. I have to say, I do quite like this. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, but look at this.
It's very nice. Apart from it's got the one thing that just gets my vitriol going, which is tourbillons for multiple reasons. One is just why it's not a pocket watch, so it's no need. And two, why every time everyone does one, do you have to be able to see it through the dial? The case on this is cool. Strap's great. Certain features about it is nice, and it's more balanced than some, but it's just.
Because that's why they make the tourbillons, right? To look at, to marvel. It's not, it has no function. It's just cool.
I mean, what annoys me as well is that there's so many brands will class it as a complication. You're like, it's definitely not a complication. It's not, it's not a complication. It's just part of the movement. And, it's nice, but there's no justifiable reason in the majority of them for the price uplift that they will charge you for a tourbillon. It's not materially that much more complex to make than many other movements. But the watch world seems, especially the Swiss watch world, seems to pigeonhole it into the minute you say tourbillon, it gets expensive for really no justifiable reason.
I mean, it's a French word, so they get to charge more, right?
Yeah, for sure. Does Moser do a tourbillon, by the way?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
And can you see it?
Yeah. Good. I think the only tourbillon that I've seen recently where you can't see it, and it really is a nice watch, is the Laurent Ferrier.
Yes.
The sports watch where it's visible from the back, but it's just a beautifully clean sports watch from the start. And it's, that's a brand doing it properly. It's like, we don't need to shout about the fact that this has got a tourbillon in it. It does have it. And if you want to look at it, you can see it through the back. But that's, and in fact, even that watch comes optionally, I think, with a solid case back. So you don't even need to see it if it was there. That to me I get, but it strikes me as, well, it's AP, so it is a bit flashy anyway, isn't it?
It just feels cheap since like everyone on the low end does like the open heart thing, so that they give you that tourbillon effect at like the $300 price point. So now once you have everyone doing that from like Orient on, and now you see it in AP, you're like, okay, you're doing the same thing like Orient's doing for $200 basically.
And at least with that is a relatively open dial, if you want to call it a dial. It's not really got a dial, has it? But like the other one, I don't know if Rick's got it lined up, but the Lange with the reverse push dial that was there with the tourbillon.
Yes, I do.
Which have you got it there?
I think it's this one you're meaning.
That's the one. That watch was hitting every single tick box until they cut a big hole out in the bottom of it. It just that ruins what that dial could be. That dial could be so perfect if it didn't have that tourbillon showing through the bottom end of it.
In an absolutely shock move, I 100% agree with you. It makes that AP look like something out of a Chinese Kickstarter campaign.
Mm-hmm. That's doing it right, but it's still, there's just no need to have, and that's not a flying tourbillon either. That's a cross bridge one, isn't it?
Right.
I think so.
Yeah, but on that one, they are using that as the running seconds, right? Like in place of the second hand.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they are, because is it a double split, that one? Looks like a double split. I've not actually read it yet, so there we go. RT, have you actually done much in the way of pocket watch tourbillons, making them into wristwatches?
There were some that were manufactured like that, but a lot of them have solid dials and you can't see them from the front, and that's what the customer would want in that, or at least that's what these brands are seeming to tell us that the customer wants.
Just cut a hole in it.
Yeah, and I am not willing to sacrifice an antique dial and cut a hole right through the middle of it. I think that would be wrong. And so, yeah, that last image though that you showed, I was just going to say, one of the things that our customers comment on a lot when I get to see them in person and they talk about our watches and talk about and compare them to their other watches is, I get the simple comment all the time, which is especially if I'm going to spend tens of or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a watch, I need to be able to tell what time it is. It's just like this simple, like I need to look down and see the time, right? Like, and going back to the AP, stuff like that, especially when you cut all the dial out and there's a lot of stuff going on, man, it's maybe hard to tell the time. And that's such a simple thing, but I hear it a lot from customers.
Yes, that AP is not going to be the easiest thing to tell the time on. Of that, there is no doubt. And I mean, how much of a demand, I mean, how specific do people get with what they want in taking an old pocket watch and turning it into a wristwatch? To what extent do they just like the aesthetic and let you deal with the detail, choosing the movement, choosing the one to use? And to what extent do people actually come up with a very fixed idea of what they're after?
Yeah, we get email requests all the time to do all kinds of custom stuff, skeletonizing movements, people asking us to do many, many different things to look like. A lot of times I get pictures of the big brand watches and they say, hey, can you make something out of an old pocket watch that might look like this? And our blanket statement is no. We do one thing and we want to be the best in the world at it. We take pocket watches and turn them into wristwatches, and it's very, very simple. And we already allow customers to do so much customization in terms of changing the case color and the crown color. And we have 20 different strap colors that I just say, hey, we can do anything. I mean, we have our own machines. We can make almost anything, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I really try to hang my hat on that and just focus. And I think that focus has led to a lot of our recent success.
Yeah, there's no doubt that unlike that AP, you can definitively tell what the time is on these watches. I think having gone through your website over the past few days, I've decided that this Springfield is my favorite one. This old Illinois. I don't know if that's a particularly popular model, but I do like, I mean, the movement on the back of that just looks stunning.
Yeah, that's called the Illinois Autocrat, and it's one of my favorites. The radial engraving pattern is just amazing, and it's even more amazing when you think that Illinois Watch Company, between 1915 and 1925, they made almost 300,000 of that movement that looked exactly the same. Right. And just the idea of trying to make something like that literally 100 years ago without any of the manufacturing technology that we have now just blows my mind. I don't get it.
Okay, let's give the hit miss maybe treatment on the count of three. Tell us what you think. Same if you happen to be in the chat. Join in. I think it's a miss. So you can take your, how much is it? Never actually checked. You can take, if I think it might be one of these ones that it doesn't tell you because it's so, oh no, $200,000. For some reason, they've made it actually $198,400. So goodness knows what that is the exchange rate for.
Plus tax.
Plus tax. That's very definitely.
You buy a car with the tax.
Yes.
Yeah. You could pay your mortgage for a year. Yeah.
We'll move on to this. This caught me by surprise as to how much I actually liked this. This is the Angelus U41. Now, actually, I've seen better images of this than on this particular magazine, but this is the one that gives us the most pictures. It's a brand I don't know a great deal about. Anybody particularly familiar with Angelus?
I've seen several in person. The woman who used to do PR for us does PR for them now, and she wore one, and it was from an engineering standpoint and how the case was made and how it was all set up. I was really impressed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that does look pretty cool, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen one in person. I don't know if it was the same model, but it looked pretty much the same, and it's really nice in real life.
So available in all your modern day Rolex OP colors by the looks of it. I think you can get any
Very
color.
nice.
Any idea how much it is?
Oh, I suspect that it is a lot.
Look, you can't even get
No.
you can't even get decent pictures. Never mind asking him questions. Stop assuming he's prepared.
I do know somewhere where the price may be available, but for some reason it's not available on this website. Oh no, there you go.
There it is.
Find it.
Oh,
1,700.
that's okay.
Half of that is the tourbillon.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because it looks a lot like the new GP. I can't remember what model is that, and
Yeah.
it also looks a bit like the UN Blast, the new one. That one is like 60 grand Singapore. So this one is probably 2/3 the price. Yeah, just.
Yeah, but 31,000 Swiss francs. I thought as I was scrolling down, I was looking for something beginning with a 100, but clear not. So are these guys based in the States then, Archie? If you've got someone that used to
Switzerland from what I believe.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think they're Swiss. Yeah.
So there we
I
go.
really like these. I like the different color variations, but like we were saying, at least we can know the time. It's not so busy, and the color of the hands make it easier to read, unlike the AP, I feel.
Yes. So let's do a quick hit miss maybe on this, and then we'll move on to the stars of the show from A Lange and Sohne. Give us your thoughts, folks. Maybes. A couple of hits, mostly maybes. No, actually more. Actually, no more hits. There's a 4 hit.
50. Yeah, 4 hits.
50. So that's pretty decent. So I think probably the star of the show this week, and we move. Although there has been this released today, so we'll just get your quick thoughts. This is the new Patek Philippe Calatrava
Win.
travel. You think this is a winner?
Look at it.
That's a beautiful watch.
Beautiful.
White gold,
You can't-
37mm. Oh yeah.
You can't. That's one thing Patek are good at is that.
I don't know if it's just because it's in quite bland photos. It doesn't look terribly live. It's
been flattened. Look at that though. It's been flattened though, but that dial in real life will be absolutely knockout.
That's
Yeah.
a nice picture of that one. These are cool. This one doesn't have the alarm complication. The one, was it last year they released the one that's got the 4 Shrek things on it, which also has an alarm complication on
It
it.
reminds me of the JLCs, right? With a
Memo
double
boxes.
hand, general. The indicator for local and home time, the dots.
It's very cool. But what we're really looking at is these guys. So the A Lange and Sohne Turbograph Perpetual and 1850 15 thin honeygold limited editions. First of all, I think it's a bit strange that they've released these as if it was one release. I can't really think as to why they would throw.
It's the anniversary pieces, is it not?
Yeah, but I mean, take a link out of Omega. Just because it's the anniversary doesn't mean you need to release it in the same even year as the anniversary. I just would have thought they would have given themselves like a week apart or something, rather than.
They're German. They were probably released to the 2nd of the birthday.
It's more efficient this way, you know.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you speak to your homeland. That's good, and because this came out as well, I think at the same time. This 1850 Rattrapant.
That honey gold is good.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, the honey gold color though, the color of the gold is so good in honey gold.
They use it on all 3. It's supposedly more scratch resistant than the usual 18K, though nobody knows how they do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
not something you want to test, probably.
It's not terrible.
Do you notice a difference in the quality? I mean, obviously, a lot of these pocket watches, when they come to you, are presumably just movements as cased up with the gold that they were originally in. How many pocket watches do you actually get in that are still full pocket watches for conversion? And do you notice a difference in the kind of way they're built, longevity, thickness of gold leaf, whatever they use, versus what you see nowadays?
Yeah, so most of the time when we get a full pocket watch with its original gold case, it's from somebody's heirloom piece. It's their grandfather's or grandmother's pocket watch, and you can always tell the quality of the pocket watch by the case itself. I mean, if it was a high quality movement, then they most likely put it in a solid gold case. It just all kind of went together. The interesting thing, though, is that back in the day when you ordered these, you ordered them from like a Sears catalog. So you could purchase a movement and then upgrade the case to be, silver, gold, or just downgrade the case to, nickel or gold filled or something like that. To answer your question, though, it's kind of what I said. We haven't tested it because we don't want to find out how scratchable they are, especially because it's somebody's grandpa's pocket watch. I'm not going to drop test it. I have used a lot of them for logistics, just shipping back and forth. And the gold filled models that were actually way cheaper back then, it's just a really heavy gold plating, but it holds up really well. And I think the general answer to your question is we don't make things today to the same quality as people made them 100 years ago. And that's a generality, but I think it is fairly accurate in general.
I think the only thing that, as I observe this particularly A Lange and Sohne, is these screws seem rather unimaginative. That's a bit odd, is it not? Like, use something that was maybe of a similar color rather than just what appears to be 6 big stainless steel screws. But there we go. But I mean, the movement does look absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, pretty distracted by that movement, so I didn't even notice until you pointed them out.
No,
it's not terrible.
So what would be your choice? So Dave, you don't like the tourbillon. It's anybody's favorite, the much more simple three-hander.
Two-hander.
Yeah, it's mine. I love that.
It's beautiful. That
looks like a pocket watch, so I love it.
Arthur's in the chat, and he's a big fan of the one on the right.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
anyone actually brought you a newer watch that's not actually a pocket watch to turn into something that's recased in something that you make? So just like a more modern movement or something from the 60s, but not actually a pocket watch. You ever done anything particularly odd like that?
We traditionally say no to a lot of those projects. We have done that one that was really cool. One gentleman got a pocket watch from the USSR back in, I believe it was the 1980 Olympics, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that the America didn't go. And he was a boxer, and an American boxer, and he was supposed to box in the Olympics, and the USSR sent him a pocket watch as almost like a consolation. Sorry, we couldn't, beat each other up kind of thing. And so we turned that into a wristwatch for him, as, I mean, obviously something like that was extremely special. And we have pictures of that on our website somewhere. I can find it for you.
Cool. Yeah, no, the two-hander, this two-hander eye is very nice. It's not the one I would choose, but it is very nice. So between the three then, you've got the choice of either of three of them. Dave, which one are you going for? I assume you're going for this one.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's the 1815 Ratchmany Honey Gold.
Yeah, I'll take that one too.
That's pretty classic. That's pretty classic, to be honest.
Yeah,
I like that one better, even than the one that looks like a pocket watch. That one's just beautiful.
Yeah, so I think this is the winner between the ALSs. So give us a quick hit miss maybe on the whole collection of all three of them on the count of three. Did we like what A Lange and Sohne had to offer us this week? And the answer is, I think it's
yes.
a unanimous decision of the entire series. There we go. It's a hit for everything that ALS have done this week. Right, as we come to a close, we will have a look at this from Red Bar. So Dave, give us a lowdown on what happened this past weekend, and if you could tell me where my Oris Bear mug is, I would greatly appreciate it.
So last weekend was meant to be the global meetup for the second full global meetup, which was meant to be in London, obviously due to a very pertinent virus that seems to be hanging about longer than it was invited for. We decided it probably wasn't best to do it live in person, so we have moved that date into next year, but we decided to do a virtual meetup instead, which was with most of the brands and people that were going to be engaged in the in-person event, so to speak, and I think it went down really well. So we had the big thing we had with that was in person we're capped at about 250 people. With that, we were capped by our Zoom license, which is like 1,000 for each session, and I think we had just shy of 1,000 people took us up on tickets for it, which is a lot of people. And we've really good feedback from folk. Folk were kind of tuning in pretty actively to all the different sessions, and all the sessions are now available on YouTube as well. So we recorded them all, and they're all there for anyone that either wasn't watching it live or missed them or whatever. But part of it was that we launched the latest club watch, which obviously folk will know that a couple of years ago we did the Oris. And this time we've done this one. Well, it's actually two models.
It's this one?
That's correct. So you've got a COSC certified time only, which is this one. And this is their new High Life range, which is kind of pulling back from some of their heritage pieces, kind of integrated bracelet. But it's a quick release integrated bracelet, and it also comes with a leather strap with a deployant, which is easily shifted over. The two models are the COSC only and this one, which is the perpetual calendar. This is their new in-house perpetual calendar movement as well. These have got the dial that's unique to the Red Bar edition, and they've also got the colour hits on the dial for Red Bar, the little red hits on them as well. And the case back, I think you've got pictures of the case back, don't you?
I will hunt out a picture of the case back while you are...
You'll see there. And in terms of editions, there's 10 pieces of the perpetual, and there is 100 pieces of the COSC time only, with the case back they've done as well. Price, you can see the little quick release notches there for the integrated bracelet, so it's very simple to swap it over if you want to. Price points as well are at, in UK, roughly 1,600 UK on the COSC time only. I think it's just shy of $2,000. It rings a bell, $1,800, $1,900. And the perpetual is 7,900 UK, and I think it's about 9,000 US roughly. And for anyone with Red Bar, there's a Red Bar special code, etc. So keep your eye out on your emails from your local kind of group heads and stuff, and you'll have the details about where you can buy these from.
Good. And have you got two, or you getting them both, or just one of them, or none of them?
I've gone for the time only one, actually.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yep.
Anyone else that was involved with Red Bar this weekend? Anybody else get a chance to log on and have a look?
Yeah, I watched all of it. It was all pretty good content.
Any particular highlights from the weekend, Derek?
A few people in the chat are saying as well, Oris sent some like VR glasses and did a whole like underwater presentation that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this official beer goggles for the show?
Yeah. The panel, if anyone's not seen it, the panel discussion, there was two panel discussions. They're both well worth a watch, but one of them had the guys, like from MB&F and various brands, which was really quite interesting.
Cool. Good.
I wanted to ask, was it done on purpose? The people in the US got bourbon, I believe, and then everyone in the UK got Scotch, right?
Yeah, basically it was really down to the fact that the UK dealt with the UK folk and the US dealt with the US folk. So basically it's, I think, whatever they happen to have to hand in their pile of freebies that they could be sent out.
And
this is one of the things where you can be happy that you don't live in the Middle East, because we would have gotten fruit juice.
Aussies get sent Castlemaine 4X or something.
Yeah,
No, good stuff. Good stuff. So a final hit miss maybe on this one. I think we actually did this last week, but give us a quick thumbs up or thumbs down. It would be inappropriate to give a thumbs down probably.
No, it depends, but I think it's a cool looking piece, especially the time only one. For the money, it's a great wee piece.
Yes, for the money they are certainly more than worthwhile. Good stuff. So anything coming up this week that anyone's particularly excited for? RT, are you just biting your nails until 31 days has come?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just getting back to work. We're just trying to make watches. That's what we've been trying to do for 5 years. So I'm just excited to be able to do that and not stress about too much else.
And will you be making Hamilton pocket watches or watches based on Hamilton pocket watches?
Yeah, we released what we call it the Lancaster. Hamilton was based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And so the Lancaster model is now back in production. And we released one yesterday and it sold in 6 minutes. Okay. So we make one watch a day. So we're not going to launch 50 of them or something like that. It's just one at a time, but we are considering what I'm calling internally a victory lap, where maybe we would launch one new Lancaster model a day for like the month of December and do 31 of them in a row.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
And the one you sold yesterday, it wasn't addressed to like Jean-Frédéric Dufour or anybody like that. It wasn't like, didn't go to LVMH Group or Richemont, ordered as a special occasion for them. No.
Maybe, I don't know. Someone's watching all the time, so got to keep it professional.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Again, thanks RT for the time you've spent with us this week. It's been great to get to know you a bit better, both on the recordings and also off of the recordings. Finally, from anybody else, anything else significant going on this week that anyone's looking forward to? Are you all just living boring, dull lockdown lives?
Bamford.
Well, yeah.
I'm looking for the Bamford.
Oh, Bamford, yes. So, yeah.
It's good.
How many Bamfords have now been bought within this group? I think there's at least 3. If not 4. Gigi's not. So Ralph's got one, Dave's got one. Derek, were you buying one?
Potentially.
Essentially.
The answer is he is.
Yeah, all right, okay. Got in your cup.
I don't want to divulge sources.
I think G, but there we go. So yeah, check out the Bamford limited edition along with. Is it actually a limited edition, Dave, or is it just that it's
2,000 pieces. 2,000 pieces, yeah.
Right, cool. So
it was actually
gone already.
Oh no, they are gone. Yeah. They were split between. G-Shock kept most of them between their website and their retail store in the UK. Bamford had a couple of hundred, I think, and there's a couple of hundred went to Beaverbrooks of all people for some bizarre reason.
And Scottish Watches have got all the rest.
Yeah, but they sold, I think, 3 minutes. Bamford sold his all in 3 minutes. And it was about 30-40 minutes, and all of the G-Shock ones. The website didn't even last that. The website lasted 20 minutes, and I think the shop lasted just over half an hour, and that was it, gone.
Oh, well, I suppose that counts as a successful.
Wow.
Good stuff. Well, you can now check out the audio version of this. Search for Scottish Watches Live, a Lugs Edition on your podcaster. You can now download a show. Yes, it is me that's been doing the editing. So yes, the sound is terrible, awful. The intros, as done by all of the faces you see in front of you, are all very good and very funny. Especially, I should really get Sean to count us out with his best, coming soon to a cinema near you.
In a world where watches take over.
One. So check out, we have some very exciting episodes that we've recorded with the main channel on Scottish Watches, and one of them was even with Dave and with somebody else who may be called Nick from Fears Watch Company. That'll be coming up soon, and our new mini series is starting soon. We're not telling you who it is with yet, but keep an eye out for that. But do check out the Scottish Watches Live channel, the main Scottish Watches YouTube channel, which will have a video. Ricky keeps on promising me that Sophie's going to be appearing there soon with one of our watches, but as yet hasn't appeared. But I believe Ricky just, he's not here today, so he's away. I think the word he uses is entertaining but some people find them more entertaining than others. But there we go. So, as we like to say in the show, thank you to everybody, and it's goodbye from me and goodbye from all of them.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.